Can I go then?
What? You can go. Yes. No. No, you still definitely fucked up.
Satan. I just realized my mistake. Deadly Sin of Wrath, Satan, appeared in the most recent episode of Helluva Mastermind, and believe it or not, despite his combined 3 minutes of screen time, there's a lot to be said and dragged to 8 minutes about this guy. So, without further ado, I'm Cryptid. I make videos of things I'm passionate about. To get that out of the way, let's go.
You are a disgrace.
First off, I'll preface this section with a huge disclaimer. I'm not Cartoon Universe. I don't read demonology for fun, that's his job. I mainly just want to focus on the more larger overall similarities and possible inspirations based on real life writing. Satan, the devil from the Bible, always had horns. And oh look, here he is with 2 sets of horns. Fancy. In similar scripture, he's also stated to have wings, which, go figure. Furthermore, Satan's often been described as the father of lies, a being that founded the idea of intentionally deceiving one's neighbor. Something we clearly see in this show, as he literally pretends to be the ruler of hell. Sure, try and convince me that's just a white lie. But in all seriousness, the Satan we see presented in Helluva isn't too far off what he's described to be and act like in various texts. He's an agent of chaos who thirsts for power, and one that rebelled against God to go and do his own thing and drive sinners down to his literal hellhole. In layman's terms, Satan's a deceiver. He attempts to convince others to join him in his beliefs and his way of life, clearly displaying that each word he utters should be taken as fact, which is exactly what he does in the show. He straight up lies to an entire court of people and expects no consequence or objection because of his status, which, whoop-de-doo, works incredibly in his favor. Lucifer is essentially gone, reveling in his depression, leaving him essentially in charge. He's arrogant and dismissive, clearly only having a court so he can play dress up and judge the weak for his own entertainment. He's a demon that'll tell you one thing and then do the complete opposite. Oh yeah, we're here to discuss a crime. Oh, I'm on fire now, scaring the shit out of you. This all matches with the scripture. The devil has always been stated as one that is lost in his tyrannical ways and will go to great lengths to let others know that he's in charge, and there's no hope of escape, not even through God, since you'll just end up falling back into his pit yet again one day. In the context of Helluva Boss, he constantly degrades and disregards those below him, showing off his power as a way of striking fear into the misguided. Blitz may not be a sinner that fell into sin through specific circumstances. He's like everyone else, a hellborn forced into this world. Though in Mastermind, we see that Blitz is the very rendition of a misguided sinner, someone who fell into sin due to their environment, a very common thing here on our planet. Blitz represents a lost soul without one, and instead of receiving judgment from God, he receives it from Satan, a complete switch up on the standard formula anyone who's read scripture before is used to. Helluva doesn't just represent in real life writings, but actually mirrors it in a deliberate manner. Satan, who's synonymous with Lucifer in many scriptures, is said to have created hell after his fall from heaven. Therefore, it'd be a likely assumption that he took on all of sin within himself, essentially becoming the embodiment of sin as it's referred to in present day. In the Helluverse, however, it could be possible that Satan and Lucifer being 2 separate entities, Viv decided to split the idea of the devil between the 2 characters. Lucifer represents what's left of the angel that fell from heaven, and Satan represents everything hell's known for. He's a combination of all the most demonic sides of the devil as a concept, whereas Lucifer is a combination of the remnants that remain. Delving further, it's obvious to us that Satan is way more than just simply wrath. He's prideful in his power and influence, greedy with his territory and thirst for further authority, gluttonous with how much he indulges in his own power fantasies, envious of Lucifer and his status, and he's slothful since he orders the imps of hell to fight all his wars and do the dirty work for him. Very interesting stuff. As I said, I'm not a demonology nerd, but there's your surface level analysis based off things that I remember from school. I'm pretty sure a title card should be appearing right about now.
You are a disgrace.
Satan rules the Wrath Ring, and for good reason. Despite him clearly embodying all of the deadly sins combined, this man has a clear favourite out of the 7. He's a raging hothead with no regard for life among the underworld. From arbitrarily lashing out to full-on executions, this man is a total tyrant. He even has his own fruit bowl of a therapist that he most likely stole off Belphegor to keep remaining stoic and cool, but in all honesty, I don't think she noticed. Like, come on, she's got more important things on her hands. Like, sleeping and sleeping. But when he's pressed by yoga, the meditation chakra okay. He's so disappointed to be calming down. Anything that he says that doesn't involve the potential of Titanus outrage is immediately ruled off as boring. You can just tell by the way he reacts to this that he's so used to being this godlike entity that now there's a society down in hell, he finally has to truly man up and chill out so he can make important decisions properly instead of just killing anyone that he deems as lesser. We know this is true by how Satan pretends to have created hell himself. He always wanted to be top dog and rule through fear, similar to what he does now really, but on a larger scale. He's so arrogant and spends his time pondering in anger on why Lucifer is king and not him. I'm sure that's where his envy comes into play, since the pride he has in his ability would lead him to think that he could run hell better than Lucy, which is kinda true. Not to play devil's advocate here. He does run the judicial system, and through his enraged attitude has gained this stance as above his fellow deadly sins and how they essentially kiss his ass in his mastermind verse. Ultimately, he does rule hell, but not to those that are important. The sinners don't care if some dragon-looking dude is down there killing his own people. It just sounds like self-destruction from an average soul's perspective. As we see in Hazbin Hotel, they all know Lucifer as king, and his absence from the trials and court proceedings has led to him becoming this larger-than-life and death figure that remains in the shadows, but not so much that it becomes irrelevant like some radio yapper. Couldn't be that guy. This obviously angers Satan even more. His lack of influence amongst the most vile, destructive, and impressionable individuals is bound to get under his scaly skin. Adding on to that, this is evident when he says,
Your execution will be broadcasted across the 7 rings to remind all of mankind why our power must never be challenged again.
Since it shows us Satan's true motives. He doesn't care about a gay, melodramatic imp relationship with a royal and some book malarkey. He just wants to roleplay Judge Judy and execute some folk on live TV to show his worth. Not only that, it's forced upon them too. He doesn't just want to have the opportunity of fame among the sinners, he actively uses his immense power to make that happen. Literally tuning every TV and radio into the trial so he can feed the listeners and the viewers with whatever nonsense he wants to spew. Nazi prick.
You are disgrace.
Satan has problems. You could say huge ego problems. This man is whole black-heartedly confident that he's this almighty power, the being of all beings, the true mastermind of this universe, yada yada yada, the whole shebang. Truly, he's just an egotistical dickstick, and that's not just a middle school insult, there's more. Just take a look at his face when Stolas goes crazy on this song.
I came down just as soon as I heard of the imp stood accused of a devilish crime. Could it be that a worm such as this, half a brain, could concoct such a plot so sublime?
Even Yogurt's taking notes. This demon man simply cannot wrap his head around why he's not the center of attention. So much so, he haphazardly adds himself to the song so he can be the one to wrap it up. Furthermore, we've already spoke to him about lying to the court about being here before Lucifer, but it actually attributes a lot to his ego. He's so overly confident in himself that no soul would even dare to object his claims, so he just says it anyway, knowing it's wrong, and gets some kind of power boner off it, so he goes full demon mode to shroud it in even more ego. Man, what an asshole. Well, that's Satan. Another small detail I noticed was when he dismissed Stolas' master plans by explaining his plans are so much more grand in scale. He says, and I quote,
Next to me, your master plans all look so small, little mice.
which clearly shows us how much he looks down on them, even with Stolas' stance as a royal at that point. This man's so caught up in himself, so willing to put others down so he can rise above them. Honestly, a mix of impressive and downright scummy. Ah yeah, Lucifer's not here, so I'll just take over then, and instead of being an equal standing with my peers as he is, I'll just be a dick to them instead. Also notice how much control he has in the courtroom. He's the one to move things along and calmly asks his siblings to stop arguing about who's hotter, it's obviously Mammon, and in 3 words diffuses any scuffles occurring with demons who we view as on par with him in power. So ultimately, sure he has an ego, but he's generally in charge. He does rule hell, at least the second ring and below. Hellborns are often known for saying, oh Satan, in times of distress, but you don't hear envy demons going around saying, oh Levy! So it's clear he has the most influence on the born and raised, though his greedy ego will never stop searching for more. Moving on back to the song Mastermind in the episode, Mastermind, alright, whose bright idea was that? Satan explicitly says,
When you break my rules,
Lovely term there, my rules. We've known for a while that Satan is the lawmaker, but to see it emphasized here through his own words solidifies it that much more. He takes credit for, essentially, hell, its ability to work for the cogs to keep turning, because without law or jurisdiction, you get, well, the pride ring. Without law, there'll be no goods to be produced, no foods to be supplied to the greedy sinners, and no profit to be made and redistributed back to the higher powers. He takes credit for everything. I'm more than certain that there's more to this phrase than meets the eye, and he may rule hell for the time being, but he simply cannot take credit for everything. Nobody can, yet none of that matters to him. The physical cogs that make up the machine that is hell's economy, the imps, hellhounds, loan sharks, and countless more are disregarded. All he cares about is the force that orders the first cog to turn, and the rest is none of his business, yet he takes full narcissistic credit. Another little detail I noticed is when Satan says,
Your hubris has gotten the better of you, Prince Stolas.
The levels of irony in that statement. Oh, sure, Stolas got too full of himself. Bear in mind, Stolas was putting on an act, but I'll make that known in a song analysis coming later down the line, so stay tuned. He isn't truly as prideful as he comes across, yet Satan is. The sheer friendly fire in him exposing Stolas for getting too ahead of himself is simply projection. As we discussed earlier, Satan is the most prideful demon in hell, second to Lucifer, who is half angel. So yes, he is indeed the #1 most self-fucking demon in hell, worse than the succubus. Though, let's be honest, God forbid Adam ever ends up down there, he might actually give Satan a run for his money. Anyway, that was my short little Satan analysis, hope y'all enjoyed. Did I miss anything? Any other important details or symbolisms? I'd love some correction down there too, but remain respectful, folks, don't forget that. On screen right here too is my previous analysis of the episode, and I'm sure you clicked off already, so stay positive. Gabba.